It's very hard being an old soul living in this modern world because I have a very sort of traditional view about a lot of things. I have a traditional view about friendships and relationships. I listen to 1950s and 60s music. I'm not a fan of modern fashion really, or what the majority of people wear, which is hoodies, jogging trousers, sports shirts, that sort of thing. And you do sort of feel a bit like an outsider. And you do wonder. Now, I'm not one of these people that say, oh, I'm born in the wrong generation, that sort of thing. Because, I mean, if I was born in a different generation, maybe I just wouldn't be the same person I am today. The time that you're born in has obviously a significant impact in your upbringing and how you become as a person. For example, if I was born in the 1950s, I probably would not have as much knowledge as I do now because I wouldn't have had access to the internet. It didn't exist. And it's thanks to the internet and thanks to technology that I've been able to learn so much. It was thanks to technology that I was able to discover my love of 1950s and 60s music because I happened to first listen to a Beatles song on YouTube. And it's stuff like that, no, where I'm not with these people who are like, oh my gosh, I wish I was in Greece and I wish that I was born in 67 and flower power and all this nonsense, right? I was born in 2006 and I had a pretty good childhood, but I think 2006, it seems like that's sort of the like threshold of when people like you see nowadays so many kids growing up and they're having a childhood that seems so different from my childhood because I of course used technology when I was younger. I remember when I was 8, 9 years old, I had a tablet, I had an iPad, and I would play games on it and such, and I would still watch TV and things, and I would go to the park with my friends and hang out and play video games together. But now you just see kids who are addicted to their phones. And here's the thing, it's their phone, right? You'll either see people about like literal toddlers in prams holding their mum and dad's phone, watching whatever Coco Melon crap they're looking at, or you have kids who are like 5, 6, 7 years old who have their own phone. And when they get home, all they're doing is scrolling on their iPad or their phone, and it's so frustrating because you'll like walk past a bunch of kids these days. I go to a karate club where there's a bunch of kids there, and you'll just hear the most brain rot, mind melting stuff, and you're thinking, oh, like I know every generation has their slang. I know that when I was younger, I think I would say weird stuff and meme stuff, but it's just ingrained in their language. Like it's just crazy to communicate with them. And this is one of the many flaws of the internet, just how information is just mass shared and it's just a way of life. There's no stopping it now. There's no trying to prevent it. It's impossible. So it makes me think, well, what would have been the best time to be a kid or be a teenager? And I was thinking maybe like the early mid 2000s, right? You were born, let's say, in the mid to late 90s, and then you grew up, you were a teenager in the 2000s. That seems like a pretty, like, decent time to grow up because you've got technology. There's a good balance between technology and real life, right? Technology isn't that advanced. You've got cameras, you've got the first mobile phones that were coming out, but there's no social media. It's not ingrained into everyone's life. People are not filling their minds with this you know, toxic mentalities and just garbage basically that's being spread on social media. And people, like, you see all those videos on YouTube where it was like life before the internet and it's like a recording of American kids in the 90s or the 2000s. And it does make you think, man, what would it have been like to grow up then? Because you hear a lot of adults and older people these days, my mum included, my dad as well, saying, I would not want to grow up in this generation. I would not want to be a kid in this day and age. And I completely understand why. There's so many different variables because of the internet and so many things that like make things difficult. Like dating, for example. People are too scared to do the traditional thing and go up to a girl they're attracted to or meet people at church or different activities. That's why you see people resorting to dating apps or just accepting that they're going to be alone for the rest of their life. And even when you do, let's say, get a girl's phone number or Instagram, you've got the problem of Instagram. You have so many people who are just like wanting to have so many influence. Like you'll see a girl and she has like over 1,000 followers on Instagram, which is a big red flag to me in my opinion. Um, and you'll just see how like she's posting photos, and guys do it as well. They'll just post like random photos and stuff trying to get attention. With girls, obviously, it's a little bit more on the provocative side, which is a shame. And you've also got to think of how technology has hindered us as people. Because if you think about it, right, so many kids nowadays, so many teenagers, so many young people have social anxiety. My friend was telling me the other day how he went to like a group interview event, and he was just saying how it was so easy for him because he's a pretty confident guy, pretty social guy. And people would be asking questions, people would be saying stuff to the group, and no one would speak. Like, how many times, if you're still in school or college or uni or whatever, does the teacher ask a question, and it's just crickets? Honestly, everyone's too scared, and then the teacher's like, I'm going to have to start calling on people. Like, it's so mad because a lot of these people, it's not for not knowing the answer a lot of the time. It's just because people are too scared to put their hand up and have all eyes on them. And that, I think, is because of technology. A major part is because of technology, because when I think back in the day, let's say before the internet, the way that you got better socially, it's still the same today, but people just don't want to do it. The way that you got like better socially is because you had to put yourself in situations to get stuff. Like, becoming social isn't about suddenly bursting out of your shell and singing karaoke one night. It's more about like the little things, like speaking to someone at a store, asking where something is, saying good morning to people. Um, just the little things where when you're young, your social skills develop and then you're not afraid to speak to people. But nowadays, all these things can be avoided. For example, if you wanted to get something, order something before the internet, you would have to physically go to a store, speak to the cashier, speak to the sales assistant, and place an order. They'd ask you questions about what you're looking for. You'd have to respond. Back in the day, you actually had to call someone on the phone to make a doctor's appointment. I mean, you still do that now, but there's ways around it. You can like talk to AI stuff now and do online appointments and things like that. And you just had to talk to people. Like, of course, there was a lot of stuff where you could like order things, someone would come to your house, but you had to interact with people. You had to put yourself out there and just speak like a normal human being. But today, it's so easy to avoid that. It's so easy to just use the internet and order things, get it delivered to your house. Maybe you just say thank you to one guy who drops off your package, and then that's it. And it's such a shame because it's these little moments of development that have been taken away from us. I mean, we can still choose to do them, but the majority of people aren't because we're comfortable. It's convenient. We don't have to talk to people. We don't have to go out of our comfort zone. We have been conquered by comfort. And that is because growing up in this generation, everyone's just sticking to how things are, and they don't understand that the way to move forward is to look backward in a way. In order to overcome social anxiety, in order to better yourself, in order to actually make a name for yourself, you have to do what people did in the past and just be a human instead of being consumed by this technology, being in this metaverse, the Matrix, whatever you want to call it. It's really sad to see. And it's often something I think about, maybe if I was born 20 years earlier, I wouldn't have had to deal with this kind of stuff. But I think ultimately, I'm grateful for being alive. I don't care what time I was born. Of course, clearly this is the best time to be alive in terms of survival. But it's interesting how we're surviving, but not really living. that's just something interesting to speak about. I hope you've enjoyed this little this little philosophical deep talk, and I wish you all the best. You take very good care of yourself today. God bless.